Congratulations! You just landed a job interview. You will most likely need to take and pass a Microsoft Excel skill assessment test, which is a typical way that most companies ensure that qualified candidates get hired. The test is offered in different formats. It could be interactive, most typical, multiple choice, or a combination of both. The level of difficulty of the test depends on the type of position you are applying for. The practice test and tips provided in this series of videos will serve as an icebreaker. If you already feel comfortable with Excel, these test samples will serve as a nice refresher. The test reviews provided are based on actual case studies presented in an actual business environment. The videos tend to be over 30 minutes long, so I have included timestamps below in the description for each question and the topic. These videos are mini educational courses as taught in a business environment, and they are completely free to you with no monetary obligation. The only request I have of you, if you like these videos and find them useful, please like and subscribe to my channel. So having said that, let's go help you get the job. Let's move on with a review of the test. Let's review the data we have been provided with and the test format. We are provided with the office expense budget and quarterly spending for XYZ Corporation. Column A shows the categories of expenses. Column B is the annual budget for each category of expense. Column C through F are the quarterly spending for each type of expense. To your right, you will find the body of the test. There are 20 questions we need to address, and time allotted is 30 minutes. Having said that, let's dive to each question in more details. Question number 1. Copy the worksheet to a new one with the name Work Area. Click on the name of the worksheet, right-click on it, select Move or Copy, click on Create a Copy, move to the end. To book is the same. We want to create the copy in the existing workbook, and click OK. Double click on the newly created tab and just type the new name, Work Area, and hit Enter. Here's an alternate way to copy the worksheet. Click on the worksheet tab name and hold. You will see a page icon appearing. Press the Control button while still holding the tab name, and you will see a plus sign appearing. While still holding the Control button, drag the worksheet to the right, you will see a copy of the worksheet created. Double-click on the worksheet and type the new name. And there you have it. Question number 2. Center the title in cell A4 among cells A4 through H4. Make it bold, change the font size to 16, add the thick border around it, and then repeat the same for title in cell A5. Let's highlight the cells from A4 through H4. At the ribbon, click on Merge and Center. That command merges the cells. Then click on Bold. And let's change the font to, make it 16. And now we need to put a thick border around it. At the ribbon again, click at the borders, select thick border, and there you have it. Let's repeat the same steps for the title in cell A5. A quicker way to recreate the formatting in a cell is to use the Format Painter. Format Painter is a tool that quickly applies the same formatting, such as color, font style and size, border style, to multiple cells. Think of it as copying and pasting for formatting. Select the cell with the formatting you want to copy. Select Home, click on Format Painter, drag to select the cell or range you want to apply the formatting to. Release the mouse, and the formatting should now be applied. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 3. In cell A6, increase title font size to 14 and add a border around it. At the Home tab, click at the font size, select 14. Let's go to the borders and select a thick border, a thick outside border. And there you have it. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 4. Add today's date in cell B7 and add a border around it. We have a couple of options. We will use a formula to get today's date. One option is the today function that returns today's date. Let's start typing in the cell equals today, open up parentheses, close up parentheses, and there you have it. You see today's date. The today function and the now function that we're going to try now, they're both dynamic functions, which means that every time you open the workbook, the cells get refreshed with today's date. Let's review the now function. The now function returns today's date and time. Let's see how we enter that. Now, open up parentheses, close up parentheses, and hit enter. You see that we got the date and time back. So now we need to format it. Right click on the cell, click on number, date, and let's find a type code that represents the date only. When you select the codes, look at the sample, and that denotes what the outcome would be. So let's select the first one. This is what we would like to have, and click OK. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 5. Let's format the column headers from A7 through G7. Basically, we want to change the font, center, put a light border around each title, and then add a thin border around the whole report. So let's select first the column headers. We're going to use the ribbon to do that. At the Home tab, click on the font, change the size to 14. Let's go put a border around each cell. So click on the borders, select the all borders. Now let's center each header within the cell. So select them all, click on center. Now let's highlight the data, the lines of the table, and let's put an all-around border. So we select all of them, click on the borders, select the all borders. So that will put a nice thin border around each cell. Now let's review if any of the columns needs to be expanded so the data can be viewed. So highlight, in this case, column F, and double click at the top corner, and there you have it. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 6. Format the data in columns B through F as currency. We have a couple of options. Let's highlight the cells. And we're going to use the ribbon to do that. So at the Home tab, click at the $, and automatically all the numbers change $, commas, and 2 decimals. Now you notice that the data does not fit in all the columns, hence the number sign. So all we have to do to expand them, let's select these columns and then double click at the top right corner, and there you have it. The columns were expanded. Let's try a different approach. Let's go back to what the data was. Let's highlight all the cells. Right click on the cells and select Format Cells. Select Number, select Currency. Now over here you have a few options. Make sure if you want that you want the decimal places to be 2 or more. Traditionally currency is 2. Then representation of negative numbers. It could be parentheses, it could be also red. It's up to the report you're doing. And symbol is the $. Same approach. Expand the columns that the contents don't display. Select all of them, double click at the top corner, and there you have it. Let's review an example of popular number formatting, which usually it's an area of confusion. We have the currency, accounting, and comma type. Let's go for the currency. Let's select the range of rows. Right click on the cells. Select Format Cells. Under Number, click Currency. Here you can review how the negative numbers are represented, how many decimal places you would like, and what the symbol that you want to use. Click OK. Now let's take a quick look at that. Notice that the currency symbol appears right next to the first digit in the cell. And the system adds decimal places. Now let's go for the accounting. Let's select the range again. And at the Home tab, click at the $. That's the accounting number format. Let's review the result. The currency symbols and decimal points of numbers in a column are aligned in the beginning of the cell. In addition, the accounting format displays zeros as dashes and negative numbers in parentheses. Let's review the comma style. Highlight the range. At the Home tab, click on the comma style. And let's review the result. Notice that this style formats with a comma in the thousands place and includes 2 decimal places. We also have the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+4 that automatically applies the currency. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 7. Enter a total row in cell A29 through H29. Basically, we need to insert totals on row 29 that total the budget column and all the quarterly expenses. We will use the sum formula to achieve this. Click on the cell that we want to sum. At the Home tab, click on Auto Sum. Notice the formula Excel puts at the cell automatically that highlights the entire column, and hit Enter. Let's do the same thing for the other column. Select the cell, click on Auto Sum, and look at the range. It highlights all the cells that we want to add, and click Enter. You may start typing the formula yourself, so you can start typing by pressing equal, sum, open up parentheses. Now highlight the range of the numbers of the rows that you want to sum, and hit Enter. the same thing for the other columns, but let's try something different. Let's copy the formula from that cell to the next column. So basically we're doing copy and click on paste. Let's perform the same task with a little variation. Right click on the cell. Remember, we still have the copy activated. Now go where it says copy formulas. Notice that it just copied the formula. The difference is it did not copy the format from the other cell. There could be many cases that you may want to do that. Let's format this. Click on the cell, and at the Home tab, click on $. So now the cell is formatted as currency. We can also copy the cell and the formula to the other two columns. Let's mark this question as completed and move on to the next one. Question number 8. Total the spending for each expense type and add the result in column G. Enter the title annual spending in cell G7. Basically, we want to add the quarterly expenses across, total them, and then add the total on the related row in column G. We're going to perform this in a couple of ways. So we can start entering and summing up individual cells since we only have 4 columns. So we can start by plus C8 plus D8 plus E8 plus F8 and hit enter. And there you have the result. Let's apply the sum formula. We can start entering equals sum, open up parentheses. Let's highlight the range of the cells we want to add, close parentheses, and hit enter. There you go. Let's also use the AutoSum. Click on the AutoSum, Home tab, AutoSum. Now notice that AutoSum by default goes all the way to and includes the annual budget, which we don't want. So let's drag the range and then hit enter. Let's expand the column since we have numbers we don't see. Double click at the top right corner. There you have it. Now all we have to do is just copy the formula to the remaining cells. We can do Control C, select the cells, and now hit Control V, and that copies the formula. Once again, let's expand the column, right click on the top corner, and add the header at this column, which is annual spending. Notice that the title doesn't fit, so let's expand again. And there you have it, the total across in 3 different ways. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 9. Alphabetize the data in the table by expense type. This is going to work very quickly since the expense type is the first column in our data. So we're going to do this a couple of ways. Let's highlight the range of the data we want to sort. Be careful not to highlight the total row because we don't want this to be included in a sort. At the Home tab, go to Sort and Filter. Select Sort A to Z. And there you have it. The expense types have been alphabetized along with the related data. Let's do it another way. Highlight again the range of all the expense types. At the Home tab, click Data, then click on Sort, and just select automatically A to Z, and there you have it. During the sorting process, Excel identifies the column headers and does not include them in the sorting. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 10. Highlight the expense type with the most annual spending. In the previous exercise, we totaled the annual expense for the 4 quarters for each type in column G. In this exercise, we are requested to highlight the expense type with the most spending. There's a couple of ways to do that. Let's use conditional formatting. Let's highlight the range of cells. At the Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting, click on the option Top Bottom Rules, and click on the top 10 items. What this will do gives you the 10 highest values in the range. If you change this to 1, you're going to get the top value in the range. The highlight is the default one that it gives us, that pink version, which we can change to anything we want. Let's try a second approach. The second approach would be via the sorting. Let's highlight the range. At the Home tab, click Sort. We're going to use Custom Sort. Excel by default identifies the columns, headers, and it's sorting by default based on the first column, which is expense type. What we're going to do, we're going to sort by the annual spending. Select annual spending. At the order, we're going to do, let's put the highest values first, largest to smallest. And click OK. Let's review the result. The expense type with the highest value spending is at the top. Let's mark this with a highlight and return the list back to the alphabetical order. And there you have it. We highlighted the expense type that had the most spending in the year. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 11. Highlight the expense type with the lowest annual spending. Similar to the previous exercise, this time around we need to highlight the expense type with the smallest amount of annual spending. We will perform this task in 2 ways. We're going to use conditional formatting with a slight variation. Let's highlight the range. At the Home tab, click on Conditional Formatting. Click on Top Bottom Rules. This time we select the bottom 10 items. Let's change the fill to a different color and change the top 10 to 1. So that will give us the 1 value that's smallest. Click OK. As you can see, we have the value highlighted. Let's put a highlight in the entire row. Let's do the same thing with the sorting method. This time around, we're going to sort the data based on the annual spending with the lowest value. Highlight the range. At the Home tab, click on sort. We're going to do a custom sort. We're going to select the annual spending column. And the order we're going to choose is the smallest to largest. So we're going to put on top the expense type with the lowest value. Let's highlight the row and give it a color to differentiate with the previous exercise. Let's reorder the data back to the alphabetical order by expense type. And there you have it. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 12. Add a column before column C. Calculate the percentage of each expense type budget over the total budget and add the column titled budget percentage. Format the percentages to 2 decimals. Let's add a column. Click on column C, right click on it, click on insert. Let's put the title budget percentage. Let's review the math. So basically we want to find the percentage of each expense type, which is the budget for each expense over the total budget, which is on line 29. We're going to do that by entering a formula. So let's start typing. Equals B8 over the total budget, which is B29. Hit enter. Let's look at the result. We got the answer of 0.08. Format this as a percentage. Click on the cell at the home tab, click on percentage. We also need 2 decimal places. And there you have it. Now let's copy this to the remaining. Click on the cell, Control C to copy the formula, select the remaining cells, and let's do Control V. We just received an error. Let's discuss why. Here's the issue. When you copy a formula that contains cell references, the cell references will change relative to the destination. These are called relative cell references since they change relative to where you copy the formula. If you do not want cell references to change when you copy a formula, then you need to make these cell references absolute. To achieve that, place a $sign before the column letter or row number, depending on which part of the cell reference you want to change or remain constant. The trick is deciding before you copy a formula what cell references in the formula you want to be relative and what you want to be absolute. Review the cell reference variations as per below example and notice how they change during the copying process. Let's go back to our example. So we need to adjust the formula accordingly. The part that keeps changing is the annual budget for each expense. The part that remains constant is the total annual budget. So let's change our formula accordingly. The part that changes is cell B8. The part that's constant is cell B29. So let's put the $sign before B and before 29. And there you have it. Now, let's see what happens when we copy the formula. Control C, select the rows, Control V, and there you have it. Now we have the correct representation of the percentage because the value that did not change was represented as an absolute reference. Let's make it center. Let's enter a total percentage at the bottom. At the Home tab, click Auto Sum. Hit Enter. Let's center the total percentage. And you realize that the total it's adding to 100%, which indicates that our calculations are correct. Question number 13. Find the variance of annual spending versus annual budget per expense type. Enter a title, call it Budget Variance, and highlight the expenses that went over budget. Let's review the math. A variance is the difference between budgeted amounts and actual amounts for a particular accounting category. Let's go and enter the title in column I. Budget variance. Expand the column. Let's enter the formula that will give us the variance between budget and total expenses. We calculated the annual spending earlier by adding the 4 quarters. So the formula will be equals the budget minus the annual spending. Let's copy the formula below. Control C, highlight the range of the cells we want to copy to, and hit Control V. And there you have it. This copied the formula, and now we have the variances for each type of expense. Let's format the column that we just created, the budget variance. We're going to do this using the Format Painter. Let's highlight the previous column format we want to copy from. Click on Format Painter. Notice the mouse pointer is switched to a brush, and click on Budget Variance, and as you will see, the column has been formatted to match column H, which is the annual spending. The next part of the exercise is to identify which expenses went over budget. A negative amount, which will give us expense types that went over. In this example, it's easy to see that the area that went over was the utilities, but let's do a conditional formatting to identify the over budget expenses. Select the range of cells. At the Home tab, click Conditional Formatting. Now, this time around, we're going to go into New Rule. We're going to create a new rule. So we're going to use Format Only Cells that contain. So basically, we want the cell value to be negative. So less than, and we put a value which is 0. Let's format those cells accordingly. So click on a strike color. Let's select a red one. And you can see at the sampler what it looks like. Now let's go to the font and change the font color. Let's select a yellow. Make it bold so it can be more emphasized. Click OK. Review the sample so it will be red background, yellow foreground, and click OK. Notice that The conditional formatting highlighted the expense that went over budget, which in this case is the utilities. Let's mark this question complete and move on to the next one. Question number 14. How many expense types are there in the report? And the result we added in cell B31. Basically, we're asked to count how many expense types there exist in our report. We're going to make use of the function count or count A. Let's discuss the differences. Function count counts the number of cells that contain numbers in a range of cells. By that definition, what we're trying to do might not work. So when we start typing the formula equals count, open up parentheses, select the range, and then close the parentheses, check the result, we get back 0. That's because the range we selected did not contain numbers. We will use instead the count A function that counts the number of cells that are not empty in a range. Let's start typing the formula. Count A, open up parentheses, select the range. It's very important not to select any cells that you don't want. For example, don't select the cell that says total because then your result will be wrong. Hit enter and now we get the correct number, which is 21. Question number 15. How do you protect cells from updating by others? There will be cases that you would like to share a spreadsheet with a form for collecting data or share the spreadsheet with others for input, but you would like to mitigate the possibility of others overriding existing data or cell formulas. Excel provides a tool to achieve that. By default, all cells in a worksheet are marked as locked by Excel. The lock feature goes in effect only if worksheet protection is activated. Let's review the cell status by selecting all cells. Click on the Select All button, which is located at the top left corner of the sheet. Right-click on the cells, select Format Cells, select Protection. Notice that every cell is marked as locked. You're still able to make changes because you have not activated the worksheet protection yet. So for the sake of this example, let's highlight the columns that we want people to review and provide changes, if any. So we select the annual budget, the quarterly spending, and let's highlight them with a color so when we distribute this to the people, they know that these are the areas that we want them to check. The next step we need to do is make sure that these selected cells, that these highlighted cells, have taken the lock feature off. So let's select the highlighted, the color data, right-click on them, click on Format. Now under Protection, they show us locked. Let's take the lock feature off and click OK. Again, the spreadsheet behaves normally because once more we have not activated the worksheet protection. To do that, at the Home tab, click on Review. And the Protect sheet, provide a password to unprotect the sheet and click OK. Re-enter the password again. Click OK. Now we should be able to not update any of the cells unless is the highlighted areas. If you try to delete any of the other cells, you get an error. If you go to the highlighted areas, you're able to change, as you can see. I can type a number there. In case you would like to unprotect the sheet, then all you have to do at the Home tab, Preview, just click Unprotect and enter the password. Now your worksheet is unprotected and every cell can be changed. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 16. How do you protect the workbook from being viewed by unauthorized users? There will be cases where either due to sensitive data or because you want to protect your work, especially if you're sharing hard drive space with others, that you would like to password protect your Excel workbook so it would not be able to be opened by unauthorized users. Or you would like to share your workbook with specific users or teams. Just a word of caution, when you password protect your file, do not forget the password because you will not be able to retrieve it. Let's see how we perform this task. At the Home tab, click on File, select Info, choose Protect Workbook, select Encrypt with Password, enter the password, click OK, re-enter the password. That's an error you get in case the confirmation password was different from the original. So let's re-enter. Now, word of caution, if you lose the password, you won't be able to retrieve it. And click OK. So the workbook now shows protected, and you see the yellow highlight. Let's go back and test if the protection took effect. And let's close the file. Try to reopen it, and there you go. You requested to enter the password, and now you can open the file and do some work. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 17. Add a basic pie chart of budget by expense type. Move it below the report table. At its most basic, a pie chart uses a two-dimensional circle divided into few slices. Pie charts are used to display proportions among categories, in our example, budget for each type of expense, compared to the entire expense budget. To do that, at the Home tab, click on Insert. At the Charts region, select the pie chart, and we have a 2D or a 3D. Let's select the 2D. Let's expand the chart, and there you have it. The drawback here is that we have too many categories, and the pie chart becomes very convoluted, and it's not easy to see the proportions of the individual category. Unless you create higher groups of your categories, I would not recommend this type of chart. Instead, let's go back to Home tab, Insert, and let's see what Excel recommends when we look at the recommended charts. Excel provides with a couple of solutions. I personally like the cluster bar, which clearly demonstrates the relationship of each type of expense against the other. You can easily see the budget of each category in proportion to the others. Click OK. Let's enlarge it so we can read it easier. And let's drag it below the page, below the report. Let's enlarge it a little bit more to be proportional to the report. When you hover on top of each expense, you actually get to see the value. Like the IT consultant budget is $45,000. So let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 18. Create a page footer where the page number is at the bottom right of the page and the file name is at the bottom left of the page. Let's go to the Home tab, click on Page Layout, click on Print Titles, click Header and Footer, and click on Custom Footer. We have the left section, the center section, and the right section. Above those, you have codes representing different areas, such as the file name, the page number, the time, the date. So click on the left section and click at the Insert File Name. Then let's go to the right section. Click in the right section and select page number. I'd like to make it usually like page number of total pages. So we can do the same thing. And click OK. Look at the preview pane. You have on the left the file name, on the right the page number. Click OK. And let's mark this question completed. Question number 19. Format the document for printing. Orientation should be portrait, page size legal, and make sure both report and chart feature on one page. Of course, export it to PDF for sharing. Let's highlight the range of the data we want to print. At the Home tab, click on Page Layout and click on Page Setup. Let's change the paper size to legal. We leave the orientation to portrait. Let's go over the margins. I usually put 1/2 inch or as close as I can get to all around. Top, bottom, left, right. Select Print Preview. Let's confirm this is what we want. We're printing the selection. See, if you selected Print Active Sheets, you're going to get 9 pages. Printing Selection gives you 2, which means we still have a problem. The columns don't fit in one page. So let's go to Scaling, and we say Fit all columns in one page. And there you have it. The page looks small, so it may be hard to read. But this is the desired result as per test. My preference would be I would switch the orientation to landscape. See, this gives you 2 pages. One page is the report. And the next page is the graph. Again, this is a matter of preference. I just wanted to show you the different options. Make sure you select the printer to be PDF because we are going to export it as a PDF file so we can email it. So select printer to be PDF, click on print. That will take you to an area where you review your destination, give the file a name, and you're gonna say save. In this case, now let's do cancel. Let's mark this question completed and move on to the next one. Question number 20. Mark question number 20 completed in the grid and hide the test grid. Let's go mark question 20 completed by entering Y at the completed cell. Let's select columns outside the grid of the questions. Columns K through N, including N. Right-click on them and click Hide. There you go. Looking at the top of the letters that correspond to the columns, you will notice that after J goes to O. That's an indication that you have hidden columns. Same token, right-click on any tab and hide the tab. Notice that column letters jump from J to O, which is an indication that there are hidden columns. Select both of them, right-click and click on Hide, and then you get back your hidden columns. Same token, right-click on the tab area, click on Hide, and select any of the worksheets that you want to unhide. And there you have it. This completes the review of this practice quiz. So how did you do? What did you think about the level of difficulty? I hope you found this video helpful. Let's move on to the recap section for this assessment sample test.